Hey, how's it going, everybody? John Timmerman here, founder of NoBullCON, for another live session. We're going to talk about our speaker session. So these sessions are to introduce you to our speakers a little bit before the event, so you can decide whether or not you want to attend our amazing event. Why wouldn't you? If you want to grow your business or grow professionally, that's the exact event that we've put together. So what is NoBullCON? NoBullCON is a conference. It is a virtual conference because of COVID pandemic. We're not quite able to have our in-person event yet. Thanks everyone for joining me over on Instagram. Thanks for joining me here on either my LinkedIn or NoBull's YouTube or Facebook. Welcome. So NoBullCon is a global business conference. It's a virtual conference. We're bringing business builders, people who've tactically actually built a business, to come teach you how they did it. But they're covering a variety of different industries and a variety of different topics. So if you want to learn marketing, we have several business builders that have built $1 million businesses through marketing. If you want to learn finance, operations, culture building, leadership, we have people that we handpicked from different industries and different businesses to teach you exactly how to do it. Restaurant industry, the food service industry has been rocked because of COVID. And we've got a successful restaurateur coming to speak, to talk about brand. Some of you may have heard of Dinosaur Barbecue. Excellent barbecue joint founded here in Syracuse, New York, but they have locations throughout the Northeast. But today we're going to be talking about the big one. We're going to be talking about Gary Vaynerchuk and who he is, why we picked him as our keynote, and how we got him. It's a really interesting story. I've told this on a few different platforms, but you don't want to miss this one, because if you're up against challenges right now of accomplishing something in your life, maybe it is to start a business, maybe it's to get that job, maybe it's to get that dream house, whatever it is, you might be thinking right now, well, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough connections. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough talent or skill, so I can't do that thing. Well, this is a story that will prove you wrong, because starting NoBull, we didn't have any of those things. We had never started an event before. We didn't have a lot of startup capital. We didn't have a ton of connections other than, here in the Syracuse market. And here we are now hosting, in about a month, a global business conference with some of the most successful business builders on the planet. So Gary Vaynerchuk, who is he? If you don't know who he is, and some of you don't, even though I know him very well and he's a huge social media star, we've learned that there's still a lot of people out there that don't know who he is. But he's more than just a social media celebrity. He's an immigrant. He was born in Belarus and came over to the United States at the age of 3 with his entire family. I don't know exactly how many, but like 8 people. He tells a story where he packed 8 people into a small studio apartment in New York, and they didn't have a lot of money. They just clawed and climbed and, scrounged for everything that they could. His dad worked at a liquor store as a stock boy, to help support the family. The dad ended up saving enough money. They lived really frugally, saved enough money to buy a small liquor store. And by the time Gary was a teenager, he became the stock boy at that store. And then he really got into the business. And he was a business person at a young age, an entrepreneur at a real young age. He tells a story about how he picked flowers he would pick flowers out of neighbors' gardens and then knock on their door and sell it to them. So kind of funny, especially when it's a young kid. It's cute. But entrepreneur at a young age, and he put all of his effort into his father's liquor store. And they grew that store from $3 million in sales, which sounds like a lot. So some of you out there might be thinking, well, it was already a $3 million store, but $3 million in sales on a liquor store at like a 3% margin or 5% margin or something like that. I think it's higher than that. So I think it'd be like a 10% margin. It's $300,000 a year in, net revenue. And then you have to pay your employees and the other stock people and things like that. So it's not a lot of money. They grew up from $3 million to $60 million using the internet. So he started one of the first online wine stores, e-commerce stores called Wine Library. He was also one of the first business people to start a YouTube show talking about the industry that they were in. So he started a show called Wine Library TV, and that really paved the way for what is now commonplace. You know, we all do it. I'm doing it right now, which is to talk on video about the things that we love. So he became very successful in the wine space. Then he threw that all away. He didn't throw it away, but it never was his. He actually never owned a piece of that store with his father. His father still owned 100% of it. So he built that thing for his father, and then he stepped away. Throwing away is not the right word. He stepped away and decided to get into advertising. He started a social media agency with his brother when they had no agency experience, and they went straight for the jugular. They started to work with some of the biggest companies in the world, definitely in the US. I can't remember who their first client was, but they work with now Anheuser-Busch and Chase Bank, like the biggest companies. And now they run a $200 million agency, VaynerMedia. He's also an early investor in Facebook, in Twitter, in Uber, in Snapchat. So the guy's really, really successful. So here's this huge personality, social media rock star, brand and business rock star. And we were faced with, okay, when we started the NoBullCON conference, the goal was to bring on tactical speakers, people who have actually done what they're going to talk about. They're not professional speakers. They're not just running the speaker circuits, going around and telling people about the things that they've learned. These are people who have actually built huge businesses. So we wanted to find the person who would be the sort of catalyst to help us grow this thing from scratch. We have no brand. Nobody who knew who NoBullCON was. Nobody knew who Rob, Al, or myself were. So we figured out who is the person that could bring credibility to us, but also would bring the fire, would bring trust to our event, but would also drop some huge knowledge bombs on how to do business in 2020 when we were going to do it, but now 2021. Gary Vaynerchuk was the first person that came to mind. When Rob, Al, and myself were talking about how do we get Gary Vaynerchuk, and this is the part where you want to pay attention. When you're faced with a goal, when you're faced with, hey, this is the thing that I need to be successful, we oftentimes say, don't have enough money, don't have enough skill, don't have enough relationships, don't have a large enough network, don't have the resources. And we were thinking that same thing. Did a quick Google search, found out Gary's about $100,000 to $150,000 to do a keynote speech. We did not have that money at all. So we sort of figured out how do we work this? How could we possibly get Gary Vaynerchuk to come speak to our event if we don't have that kind of money? What would be the only way? What would be the top way that somebody like Gary would say, you know what, I will come speak to your event if you give me this? And the first thing that popped into our heads, well, not the first thing, but what we landed upon was, what if we give something that super valuable to Gary that he really wants right now? We offer him to give him that thing. So barter. And this is the piece you want to pay attention to. Find something really valuable to the people who are in charge of the thing you need and barter with them for that thing, and then go make that thing happen. So for Gary at the time on his social media, he was constantly promoting Empathy Wine. Empathy Wine, his new wine company. He had just launched it. He was super proud about it. He was, offering people discounts and saying, go buy this wine. And he was constantly posting about it. So we said, you know what? What if we could increase the sales of Empathy Wine? What if we could offer to either buy or sell a certain amount of bottles of wine for him in exchange for having him come speak? And so we said, let's do it. Let's try it. So we came up with a strategy to go to all of his social media networks, comment, DM him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I think at the time he was getting pretty big on that. And just ask him, say, hey, Gary, we'd love for you to come keynote. What if we could sell a boatload of your wine? Would you come do it? What if we could sell 2,000 bottles of wine? Would you come do it? What if we could sell 3,000 bottles of wine? And we just kept asking him, and no response. No response from any of the accounts. Oh, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's important because finally, once we got to about 3,000, I think, somebody on his team responded and said, hey, this is super interesting. Let's set up a call. So when we got the offering to sell 3,000 bottles of wine, which I'd have to do the quick math, but I want to say that's probably around $60,000 to $75,000 worth of wine, got his attention. So we jumped on a call with his executive at that time. I can't remember his name, but we got on that initial call, and they got all the information. What was the event all about? Why did we want Gary to come speak? What was the layout going to be like, the format, all that kind of stuff. He said, great, let me bring it back to their team, his agent, and we'll see what we can come up with. So brought it back to his agent. They came back with 5,000 bottles of wine, and he's in. And, there were some details and stipulations. We had to do a certain amount by a certain time. And we agreed, signed the contract, boom, we were off and running. We had just secured Gary Vaynerchuk for no money up front because we were able to deliver something that he wanted at that particular time. And that should be that inspiration to all of you out there to find out something valuable that the person who you need to do something or who is in charge of the thing that you need, find out what's valuable to them. Do your research, go to their social media, stalk the shit out of them, and figure out what they're posting. What types of food are they posting? What types of things are they posting about? Do they have an event coming up? Do they have a book coming out? Do they have a new business that they're launching? What is important in their life that you can deliver to them and offer to do that in exchange for what you need? Maybe it's an introduction. Maybe it's a partnership. Maybe it's investment. Maybe it's a job. So think about what that is, because it is definitely possible. So that's how we got Gary Vaynerchuk. So what's Gary going to be talking about? We're super excited about this format. Before I tell you about the format, though, I got to do some housekeeping. So right below you see, if you don't have a ticket to NoBullCON yet, just head to NoBull.com. Sorry, NoBullCON.com, like NoBull Conference. NoBullCON.com, use the code LIVE30. You'll get 30% off the ticket price that you see there. So just enter that code when you click on the reserve your spot or reserve your seat, and you'll see it reflect on your cart. I think it comes to about $67. So 2 days of power-packed business builders teaching you tactics on how they built their company and how you can too for $67. That's the equivalent of like 15 Starbucks coffees. So go ahead and do it. You should. You owe it to yourself, and share it with your friends. But Gary's talk is going to be super unique. So Gary puts out so much free content online. And in fact, we've had people say, like, why I don't need to come see Gary. I can just watch his content online. But sticking with the tactical approach, we wanted to make sure that this wasn't a motivational conference. This wasn't a conference where people are just like, you need to be inspired. You need to be motivated. You need to work hard. Like, we get plenty of that, and it's all true. But we wanted some actual tactical advice that we could all take to our business or the businesses that we're leaders at and apply it to our daily life and in our business. So we created what we think is the first ever game show keynote speech with Gary. And it's going to be called, What Would Gary Do If He Bought Your Business? And we're going to tap Gary's brain because he is a really smart business person as well as a really good leader. He's, the total package when it comes to a business builder. So we're going to tap Gary's brain, and he is going to fix your businesses out there. So how do you do this, right? How do you get on? You go buy a ticket, and when you go to purchase a ticket, I think you'll either be prompted. I'm not sure if it's live on the website now or not, but at some point you'll be prompted to enter in your business problem. And if it's not there now, you can still buy a ticket, and then we'll retroactively send you the questionnaire. Kenya, let's make sure we do that. So you can enter in your business problem. So I'll add one right now. I have another company with my wife called Jackson Jovi. It's the logo you see behind me here. And it's a small denim company, athletic jeans. It's quite honestly a fantastic product, if I do say so myself. Or you can go to our website and see all the 5-star reviews. But the problem we're having is we're having trouble affording production of really popular sizes. And to try to get to the minimum quantity order that we need from our manufacturer, it's a lot of money. We got to spend it up front. We don't exactly have a ton of incoming sales. So chicken before the egg sort of scenario. So I would submit that problem to NoBullCON and say, I'm having trouble figuring out how to fund production before the demand is there. Any suggestions? What would you do if you bought Jackson Jovi? So that's what you can do for your business. And then Gary is going to be up there on stage. I'll be up there moderating and basically presenting the problems to him. And then he's going to go rapid fire and fix that problem. Talk about if he just invested in your company, what would he do next? What would he go find out? What are the next steps that he would do? And then what would he do to make sure that that business grows through that sort of problem area? It's going to be super interesting. Honestly, this wasn't even the original thought. In 2019, when we came up with this event, before the pandemic, this was going to be sort of a more traditional in-person event, 2,000 people here in Syracuse, New York. We were going to have a smaller amount of speakers, and it was going to be a huge, concise, packed, 4 or 5 hour event. But since we went virtual, we expanded it and created these new sort of opportunities to keep it exciting for people virtually. So because we all have Zoom fatigue. So I'm really excited not only for these tactical speakers to teach us how they've built their business, but I'm also excited for this game show, Gary Game Show, because I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be hugely impactful, and he'll be able to tell you how to fix your problems in your business. And even if it's not your specific business, you're going to have so many takeaways from the tactical advice that he's going to give that you're going to be able to apply that into your own business. And then I will help to elaborate on those fixes and talk about different industries as well. So it's going to be a really great time. So just a reminder, Kino, if you're still there, pop the discount up again. Head over to NoBullCON.com. Use the code LIVE30 for 30% off. Yeah, so that's it. Oh, before we head out, we have a couple of quick announcements. If you're on Clubhouse, join us on Clubhouse. We do Clubhouse rooms. We now have a club, NoBullCON. So just search for that club. You can join it, and you'll get notified anytime we do a room. We did one last week with David Meltzer, one of our speakers. He was the CEO of the agency that was the inspiration for Jerry Maguire, the movie. We had another Clubhouse yesterday that was on how to business development, how to biz dev as an introvert in 2021. Got some really good feedback from the people up on stage there. So head over to Clubhouse if you have an iPhone, so you can get into our rooms. NoBullCON on Clubhouse. And our next one is going to be Here to Help, Free Business Connections, Friday. So tomorrow, 2:00. It'll probably be a small room, but if you want to come in and you need help with anything, you need an introduction to an accountant, you need a introduction to some new clients, some people that need your stuff, you want a job, you need advice on marketing, whatever it is, if we can't answer it in the room, then we'll make connections for you to get you some help. So that's it. I'm going to wrap up with answering a few comments and questions on here coming in from all different platforms. So Jackie says, if we already purchased a ticket by purchasing a case of wine, how do we go about submitting our question? Kino, what email can Jackie submit her question to? Maybe if you could pop it up on the bottom here or just chime in. We'll get you that answer in just a moment, Jackie. Some other questions. I got to get up here on Instagram. So Jeffrey needs some jeans. Yes, you do, Jeffrey. Networking and communication. Target your distributors with, I don't know what that is. Genuine integrity. That's all good advice. But any other questions? There we go. All right, cool. Jackie, send it to hey@NoBullCompany.com. And full disclaimer too, full disclosure, Gary's not going to get to all the problems. So we're going to submit your fix, and it's going to have to be decided between his team and ours, like which ones he's going to fix. But we'll have this full list of issues. And I promise you, everybody that submits a problem in their business, we will get somebody of substance to answer it for you, whether it's one of our other speakers. David Meltzer is a genius when it comes to fixing problems. And we might be able to get him to rapid fire on a Clubhouse or something like that. So we will make sure that you get your business problem fixed ASAP. So that's that. Thank you, everyone. Have an amazing day. Don't forget, NoBullCON.com. Peace.